Someone has to tell me, why is this guy always in the doghouse with the online hall monitors of righteousness? It is a phenomenon that truly fascinates me, that every couple of years, Matt Damon, one of the most likable guys in Hollywood with impeccable liberal credentials, is again flailing around in cancel culture quicksand. There are too many people in this country who are motivated not by what they really believe, but by what will get Twitter to react to them with likes and retweets. That's called bad faith. It's why every couple of years I'm reading headlines like, USA Today, I wish I could cancel Matt Damon. Washington Post, Matt Damon has more Damon-splaining to do. Daily Beast, shut up, Matt Damon. Vox, Matt Damon isn't a terrible person, he's just ignorant.
Matt Damon has somehow become one of the most popular targets for cancel culture. He is constantly on the edge of his seat, waiting for the smallest error. The irony is in this: Damon has never hesitated to support liberal causes while being a leftist, but does that protect him in any way? Not even close. Once the cancel mob has fixated onto a target, loyalty is meaningless. They continue until they are dragged through the mire. Bill Maher is able to assist with that. The outspoken anti-WO critic does more than just defend Damon. He cuts through the bullshit with harsh clarity. So put on your seatbelt.
It's not always meant as a slur, but it's wrong, yes, of course. And Damon owned up, saying that while coming of age in Boston in the 70s and 80s, that word was thrown around without any thought put into it. And now he's put some thought into it, and he's going to stop using it. One might say he became woke. Okay, he was late to the party, to which we could say, welcome, glad you could make it. Or we could say, you came later than I did.
Maher starts by laying out the facts plainly. Matt Damon quietly chose to stop using a derogatory term that had historically been aimed at gay people, doing so on his own without being pressured, canceled, or dragged through a public shaming campaign, which by any reasonable standard should have been seen as progress or at least a good faith step forward. But instead of approval, the outraged crowd still found a reason to be offended, because for them, sincerity is never enough and self-reflection doesn't count unless it follows a very specific script of public humiliation. Maher zeroes in on the absurdity of that reaction, pointing out how even genuine efforts to grow are treated as offenses if they don't satisfy the mob's demand for ritualistic outrage, proving his larger argument that intention, improvement, and even apologies are irrelevant in a culture where the goal isn't progress, but punishment. They don't care about truth, nuance, or context.
People in this country who are motivated not by what they really believe, but by what will get Twitter to react to them with likes and retweets. That's called bad faith. It's why every couple of years I'm reading headlines like, USA Today, I wish I could cancel Matt Damon. Washington Post, Matt Damon has more Damon-splaining to do. Daily Beast, shut up, Matt Damon. Vox, Matt Damon isn't a terrible person, he's just ignorant. Really? That bad, is he? We're talking about Matt Damon? I don't know, he's got a clean water charity and delivers food to Haiti. What have you done, Vox headline writer?
What matters are clicks, likes, and engagement, and anger simply sells better than calm, balanced reality. Outrage drives tribalism and strong emotional reactions, and that is the business model, which is why you rarely hear about Matt Damon's charitable work or positive contributions around the world. Quiet generosity doesn't go viral, and fairness doesn't satisfy algorithms designed to amplify conflict. Media outlets know that attacking Damon generates far more attention than praising him, so harmless moments get twisted into controversies, keeping the outrage machine well-fed and endlessly profitable.
He's always getting pulled over by the woke police for something. He's got a woke rap sheet as long as your arm. On the reboot of the Project Greenlight series, he was booked on obstruction of social justice for maintaining that a director should be chosen on merit first. But merit first is not synonymous with racism. Thinking that it is, that's kind of racist.
Actually, this shouldn't have been controversial in the first place. Choosing directors, producers, performers, and staff based on their qualifications is not radical. This is how filmmaking has functioned from its inception. Great movies are not created by checking ideological boxes, but rather by skill, experience, and vision. Damon didn't give a lecture or make a major statement. He just expressed what was obvious. The most qualified applicant need to be employed. Both the film and the audience gain from that. But common reason is fleeting in an outrage culture. As soon as they heard Damon say it out loud, the woke crowd launched an attack. An ordinary industry reality was turned into something horrible. When he abruptly declared the obvious, he became challenging. In their perspective, even prioritizing quality over politics is grounds for cancellation.
Damon did hard time in Twitter jail on 2 counts of accessory to homophobia for saying that actors do well when they keep their private lives private so that audiences can watch the character on the screen without thinking about the caricature from the tabloids, and that includes your sexuality. Which is true. One of the reasons I love Daniel Day-Lewis is I'm not sure he even exists off screen. But in Wokeville, somehow that became gay actors should go back in the closet, which is not what he said. But the verdict was in and he was sentenced to appear on Ellen.
When the illusion drops and reality no longer matches the version people have built in their heads, reactions often sour fast, expectations collapse, and the performer is suddenly judged through a harsher lens. That's just human nature, and it happens to everyone eventually. That was the point Damon was making all along. His argument had nothing to do with bias or exclusion. It was about recognizing the difference between a person's private life and their professional work. Predictably, the outraged crowd rushed in and twisted his words, turning a thoughtful comment about boundaries into something ugly.
Here's how unhomophobic Matt Damon is. He f***ed Liberace. In 2016, the movie The Great Wall opened and Damon was brought up on charges of whitewashing in the 3rd degree. Whitewashing being when filmmakers cast white actors for parts meant for people of color, which is exactly what he was not doing. His role was never meant for a Chinese actor. In fact, it was a Chinese-made movie targeted primarily to the Chinese audience that was purposefully using his white ass so the movie would have crossover appeal here. Nevertheless, when I heard about this, I immediately replaced Matt's poster over my bed with Chris Evans.
A call for balance was reframed as intolerance, even though it clearly wasn't. In outrage culture, subtlety doesn't survive, intent doesn't matter, and meaning gets flattened into whatever fuels the next wave of anger. Every time Matt Damon does something, the woke mob finds a way to be angry. If he speaks, he is problematic. If he doesn't say anything, he is complicit. This was aptly portrayed in Bill Maher's re-examination of the Great Wall backlash. The film was unquestionably Chinese in origin, financed by Chinese producers based on Chinese mythology and history, and primarily intended for Chinese audiences. Damon was not intentionally cast in a way that would skew the story. It was an easy business decision. The producers looked for a well-known American star to aid in the film's international distribution. This is how
2017, in the early days of the Me Too movement, Damon was locked up in Alcatraz on a charge of aggravated mansplaining during a reckoning. And was sentenced to not less than 1 year of having to shut the f*** up. See, what happened was during an interview where Damon called the Me Too movement wonderful and a watershed moment, he added that sexual misconduct involved a spectrum of behavior and that there was a difference between patting someone on the butt and rape. True, undeniable, and unforgivable. Even though the legal system has always differentiated degrees for crimes, even murder. Oh, Matt, always getting in trouble for saying perfectly reasonable things.
International film has always functioned. Maher's point was simple but disastrous. Cultural erasure is not the same as cultural cooperation. Whether you are an enemy or an ally is irrelevant. Once they have you in their sights, you are fair game. Damon spoke in a cool, collected, and fact-based manner. But reason has never satisfied outrage culture. They weren't looking for nuance or deep dialogue. They wanted total submission. They wanted Damon to publicly examine the amount of wrath on every in the Me Too movement. No backstory, no hesitancy. it was deemed a betrayal to do anything less. Maher's right about this. For the mob, restraint is guilt, and balance means complicity.
He's done it again by breaking Liam's law. Yes, that's the law that refers to the time a few years back when actor Liam Neeson recounted a story of personal growth involving racist thoughts he had as a young man, but then realizing the error of his ways, expunging the racist element from his anger. But of course, in so doing, he committed the cardinal sin of admitting he was not born perfect and did not emerge from the womb completely enlightened like Buddha. And now Matt's done it with his gay slur admission. Committed the crime of not always being the person you would become.
Because he refused to reduce complex situations to moral drama, Damon became a target and thus exposes awakened culture's actual vulnerability. From birth, people are supposed to be perfect. No room for growth. Mistakes are not accepted. No recognition for learning or changing. One error, one out-of-date comment, and you're permanently damaged. But who really lives up to that level, to be honest? Everyone has said or done something regretful. This also holds true for the loudest yells from the enraged crowd. There is a distinction since most people reflect and grow.
Tired of bad faith arguments, and it's all we do now on both sides of our divide. 2 weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi called Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy a moron. Oh, that's not the bad faith part of the story. That's the true part. But a few days later, McCarthy was speaking to a group of Republicans and said jokingly, but he is Kevin McCarthy, he said that if Republicans took the House in 2022, quote, "I want you to watch Nancy Pelosi hand me that gavel. It will be hard not to hit her with it." Pelosi's office called it a threat of violence. Hakeem Jeffries said violence against women is no laughing matter. And Eric Swalwell said McCarthy was a would-be assailant who must resign. Shut up.
That should be significant. However, outrage culture freezes people at their lowest moment, forever defining them. Think about Kevin McCarthy's joke about hitting Nancy Pelosi with a gavel. Everyone knew it was a metaphor. It was obviously political humor, the kind that has been used for a long time. Democrats, meanwhile, persisted in making it a huge spectacle. Instead of acknowledging that it was a joke, they reframed it as violence against women. Social media took off, press conferences followed. For a remark that no rational person would take seriously, boycotts.
This is what bad faith is. You don't really think it was a threat of violence, or that anyone thinks such violence would be a laughing matter, or that Kevin McCarthy is a would-be assailant, any more than anyone thinks Matt Damon's a homophobe. And Matt, my advice to you, stop hunting for goodwill. You're not going to find much in this country.
Were threatened. The safety of women is unrelated to this. It was all about political theater, manipulating headlines, inciting rage, and scoring points. The whole story ultimately reveals the real problem. Outrage has taken the place of reason. Whether it's Kevin McCarthy, Matt Damon, or anybody else, context and intent are no longer important. The awakened people does not care about justice, progress, or candid dialogue. They are drawn to punishment. Bill Maher slices through the clutter with ease. When development is ignored and perfection is sought, everyone eventually becomes a target. Jokes develop,